Hey everybody, Mr. Rogers here. So today I'm going to need you to use your imagination a little bit. I want you to imagine that this is the roof of your garage. Now I want you to imagine that it already has plywood stretching across it, across this here. And I also want you to imagine that it already has shingles on it, but they're really old shingles. They're broken, they're falling off, water's coming in every time that it rains. So what we're going to do is we want to go over to Gibbs Hardware and we want to buy new shingles. But how much do we buy? When we get to Gibbs Hardware and they ask, how big is your roof? We don't want to say, well, it's about this big, but imagine this 10 times. We want to be able to give them an exact measurement. We want to be able to give them the area of the roof. In this case, we're going to do it in square feet. But before we do it here, I want to discuss the concept of area just a little bit more. So here we have a rectangle. Now we take out a measuring tape, we measure the width, and it's 2 feet. So we measure the width here, it's also 2 feet. Then we move on, we measure the length. We find out that that's 4 feet, and then we go over to the other side, we measure the length again, and it's 4 feet here. So what we want to determine is how big is this space in the middle? What's it going to take to cover this entire rectangle? Now what that's called is the area. So the area for any rectangle or square can be determined by multiplying the length by the width. So it's basically it sounds complex, but it's a very simple multiplication problem. So area, let's break it down. Area equals length. Now we look over here, oh yeah, our length was 4 feet. So I put in 4 feet. Then I'm going to multiply by our width, which is 2 feet. So 2 feet. Now let's go down here. Area equals, now this is a multiplication problem that you've been doing for probably since the third, maybe the second grade. 4 multiplied by 2. Now you can think of that 2 different ways. You can either think of it as 4 2 times, or you can think of it as 2 4 times. So you can think 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8. Now, when you're working with area, your answer, you're multiplying a measurement by a measurement. So your answer is going to be in feet squared. So your answer is 8 feet squared. Now, there's some math that will better explain why it's feet squared, but I'm just going to show you visually why our answer is 8 feet squared. So check this out. 4 multiplied by 2, we established was 8, and it's feet squared. So look, here's 1 square foot, 2 square feet, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 square feet. Now, let's say we get to Gibbs Hardware, we go up to the counter, we say, okay, well I have this surface, it's 8 square feet. How many packages of shingles do you think I need? Now, let's just imagine that each package of shingles covers 2 square feet. I'm looking at the shingles, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see a chop saw that I really like. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This garage project can wait. I really want this chop saw. So I don't buy any shingles. So I buy 0 packs of shingles. So each pack covers 2 square feet, but I don't buy any of them. So 2 multiplied by 0 is 0. Now let's say, you know what? I really want the chop saw, but I got to get this garage project done because I have water coming in, it's causing a mess. So let's work our way down. Now 2 multiplied by, let's say if I just buy 1 pack of shingles. Each pack covers 2 square feet, so 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. Now 2, sorry Kristen, I circled again, 2 is not enough to cover 8. So let's keep working our way down. 2 multiplied by, now we get 2 packs. Now we've done this, again, this is something we've been doing since probably second grade. 2 times, so 2, 4. So we're getting closer. So that's 4 feet squared. Now probably a lot of you are already thinking ahead, Rylan, Caleb, all of you are probably thinking ahead. You're like, Mr. Rogers, we know what the answer is, but let's just follow it all the way through. So 2 multiplied by 3, 2 3 times, that's 2, 4, 6. So we're at 6 feet squared if we buy 3 packages. And then finally, Tanner's like, finally, you got there, Mr. Rogers. So finally, if we buy 4 packs, and if each pack covers 2 square feet, we're at 8, which is exactly where we want to be. But you know, when you're working on shingles, sometimes you step on a shingle. If it's a really hot day, sometimes you step on a shingle and it damages it. In order to start a new row of shingles, you have to cut shingles. So if I were to get exactly the amount that it would take to cover this, I would end up coming up short when I actually got onto the project. So I need to order more than the 4 packages. But how much more is the question? Okay, let's say you're working with your cousin on this project, and your cousin has shingled thousands of roofs. It's what he does for work. So we've established that the area of this rectangle is 8 feet squared perfectly, and it takes 4 packages of shingles to get to that 8 feet squared. But again, you need to cut some shingles, you're going to damage some shingles, and your cousin knows this because he does it so often. And he says, hey, when you get to Gibbs' Hardware, will you tack on an extra 25% to the order? Now, you're thinking, what does he mean by tack on an extra 25%? Now, here's the explanation. So, 25% is, and this is a little bit complex, but I'll show you in other examples too. So, 25%, when you're dealing with percents, you're dealing on a scale of 100. So 25%, if you were to write that, it's the same as 25 out of 100. Now this goes back to our previous lesson when we were dealing with fractions. It's 25 out of the 100 horseshoes that you need to make one event. So you haven't achieved your event. You're only at 25% of 100%. Now, this is when I'd be like, hey Caleb, can you tell me how many pennies does it take to make $1? And Caleb would be like, it takes 100 pennies to make $1. Exactly. Now, in this case, we only have 25 of those pennies. So we're at 0.25, which is how you'd write 25 cents. So, whenever you want to find 25% of any number, you multiply that number by the decimal value of the percent. So, we have 4 packages. That's the perfect 8 feet squared that we need. But again, our cousin wants us to tack on an extra 25%. So I multiply 4 by 0.25. Now you're like, whoa, Rogers, hold on. We're multiplying by decimals now? What's going on? Now, check this out. I'm going to do this on the side. And I'm just going to show you that multiplying, there's only a slight difference when you multiply with a decimal. So 0.25 times 4 is very similar to 25 multiplied by 4. Now let's do this one first, because this is the one that we're most comfortable with. This is like a side example. Now, so I said, hey Kristen, will you give me the answer 4 multiplied by 5? And she's like, Rogers, of course, I know that every time. So 4 multiplied by 5 is 20. Now, you can do it on your hand if you want. It's 5 4 times, so 5, 10, 15, 20, right? Now, you put the 0 here, you carry the 2 to the next place value. And now, here's the trickiest thing about multiplication is that even though you're multiplying, whatever values get carried into the next column actually get added at the end. So, 4 got multiplied by 5, gave us our 20, put the 0 here, carry the 2. Now 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, but then we add the 2 on top of that. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So 25 multiplied by 4 is 100. Okay? Now, sliding over here, this is 0.25 multiplied by 4. Now, here, same process. 4 multiplied by 5, Kristen says, hey, that's 20. So we put the 0, we carry the 2. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. Plus the 2 is 10. So we put the 0, put the 1. Now, here's the difference. When you're multiplying with a decimal, at the very end, all you have to do is count the number of places it takes to get to the decimal. Now, here. So I start here all the way to the right, and I just count until I get to my decimal. I have 1, 2. So I go to my answer, and I go 1, 2. And I get 1. So basically, what my cousin's saying is, hey, will you get 4 packages, and then by adding that extra 25%, you buy 1 extra package, right? So now, what I need to do is I need to find the length and I need to find the width of this roof. So let's find out what those two measurements are. Here we're measuring the length of the roof. So I've attached my measuring tape on the far side of the roof, and I've measured all the way across to the other side. And our measurement, if you can see, is 96.5 inches. So here we're measuring the width of the roof. So I've attached the measuring tape to the bottom of the roof, and I've measured all the way up to the peak. The measurement is 98.5 inches. So we have our measurements. The width is 98.5 inches. The length is 96.5 inches. Now remember, in order to find the area of any rectangle or square, area equals length multiplied by width. So we have everything we need. Now, before we start multiplying 96.5 multiplied by 98.5, I think this is a good opportunity to use rounding. So 96 inches, if you pull out a measuring tape, 96 inches equals 8 feet. Now, both of these values are incredibly close to 8 feet. So 96, there's our 96 inches, and we're only 1/2 inch beyond. So I'm going to call that 8 feet for the purposes of this garage project. Now, up here, 98.5 inches. Now, 96 inches equals 8 feet. Here we're only 2.5 inches beyond 8 feet. Again, I'm going to round down to 8 feet because it's so close. And it makes our calculations so much easier. Area equals length, 8 feet, times width, 8 feet. So here, 8 feet multiplied by 8 feet equals 64 feet squared. Now, 8 multiplied by 8, that's a pretty difficult single digit multiplied by single digit problem. So when you encounter any problem that's difficult, a multiplication problem, an addition problem, any kind of problem, it's important to work off the information that you know. So let's write 8 multiplied by 8 equals 64 here. Now, like I said, this was a challenge, 8 multiplied by 8, but let's think. We've been multiplying by tens for years. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So 8 multiplied by 10 is 80. So let's write that here. 8 multiplied by 10 equals 80. Now we also know that 8 multiplied by 2 is 16. Now, it's a little bit difficult to count by 8s, but in this case, 8 multiplied by 2 is the same thing as 2 multiplied by 8. And we've been counting by 2s or multiplying by 2s for a long time. So 2 8 times is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, but how many of you agree that 10 minus 2 is 8? Now, that same way, you can also do 80 minus 16 equals, I think if we do that out, or I know that if we do it out, 64. I'm on my way to Gibbs' hardware store. I get inside. Now, I look at the package, the shingles package, and I see that each package covers 20 square feet. So each package covers 20 square feet. So 20 square feet. Let's say I buy 0 packages. I get in there, I see something else I want, and I think, you know what, this garage project, I thought it was really important, but it's not. So 20, even though each package covers 20 square feet, I bought 0 packages because I buy something else, so I have 0 coverage on my roof. Any number multiplied by 0 equals 0. Now let's say I buy 1 package. 1 package gets me 20 square feet of coverage. So basically I can cover part of my roof, but I can't cover the whole thing. So here, 20 multiplied by 3 packages gives me 60. Okay, but now even at 60, even after buying 3 packages or after putting 3 packages on the counter, I still have not achieved my 64 feet squared. So I have to buy a 4th package, which gives me 80 feet squared of coverage. So not only am I able to cover the 64 feet squared, but I have some left over, right? I'm at 80 feet squared. Now, let's say I want even more. So I want to add 25% to my order. So not only am I going to get the 4 packages, which not only does the 64 square feet, but it does a little extra. It gets me to 80 square feet. But I'm predicting that I'm going to need more. I'm going to make a lot of cuts, and so I want even more. So if I want to find 25% of any value, I multiply it by 0.25. So again, we're doing it by 4. So 0.25 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8 again. And then this is a repeat of what we did previously. 4 times 2 is 8 again, plus the 2 is 10. We count our decimal places at the very end. We go 1, 2. So we go 1, 2. So not only do I buy the 4 packages, but like before, I buy 1 more package. So I'm buying 5 packages total. Okay, so now we're going to use our knowledge of percentages in a different way. So we're going to buy 5 packages. We already determined that. So let's say each package costs $15. So 15. So each package costs $15, and we're buying 5 of them. So let's have this 5 run its course through this top value. So 5 multiplied by 5 is 5 times. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So put the 5 here, carry the 2 up. Now we do 5 multiplied by 1, which 5 multiplied by 1 is 5. But then we add the 2 to it, and we get 7. So the 5 packages are going to cost $75. Now, this is where we're going to use our knowledge of percentages. So we're there, and then all of a sudden we notice, oh, wait a minute. There's a sign that says shingles are 35% off. Oh, that's a great deal. So we're expecting to pay $75, but we know that we're going to get 35% off, but we're thinking, well, how much is that? What is 35% of 75? So let's write down what we know about percentages again. 35% is the same thing as 35 out of 100, or 35 over 100, which is the same thing as 0.35, right? Now, remember what we said earlier when we were talking about 25%. Whenever you want to know the percentage of a value, all you have to do is multiply by the decimal. So if I want to know 35% of 75, I multiply 75 by 0.35. So, like this. Now, whoa, wait a minute, Mr. Rogers. Not only now are we using decimals, but we're using 2 digits by 2 digits. So that's okay. We're going to work through it. So 5 multiplied by 5, we just established that that's 25. So I'm going to put the 5. I'm going to carry the 2. Now, again, this 5 has to run its course through this top value. So 5 multiplied by 7 now, that's 5 7 times. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. But we have to add the 2 to it. So it's going to be 37. So I put the 7 there, and there's no other column, so I put the 3 here. Now, here's where it gets tricky. So we've completed, the 5 has run its course. Now we move on to the 3. Now the 3 has to run its course. Okay, so Audrey, you're great at this. Remember, when we're using the 5, when the 5 is running its course, we start our value directly under the 5 and go to the left. Now here, I'm going to put this placeholder here. It's just a 0. It has 0 value. But since we're moving on to the 3, and the 3 is going to run its course, we want to start our next row underneath the 3. So 3 multiplied by 5 is 5 3 times. So it's 5, 10, 15. So I put 5, and I carry the 1. Now I do 3 multiplied by 7. Now that's 21. And I want to add the 1. So it's going to be 22. Now, at this stage, great, I'm perfect. The 5's run its course, the 3's run its course, I have no other values. So I have these 2 rows here. I want to add these 2 rows. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 2 more is 6, and then 2. So, now we can't forget, we're multiplying with a decimal value. So, at the very end, just like before, I count my decimal spaces. I start to the right, and I say 1, 2. So, down here in my answer, I go 1, 2, and I find out that 35% of 75 is $26.25. So $26.25. But look, it's 35% off. Off is the key word. So this amount is coming off. So 75, which is what we were expecting to pay, and we just found out that we're going to get $26.25 off. So now I'm subtracting with decimal values. When you're subtracting with decimal values, it's the same as when you're not using decimal values. You have to line up your place values. So here I can't do 0 minus 5. So I got to borrow, 5. I borrow all the way over. And then this is getting pretty tricky. So this 7, remember, it becomes a 6. And it sends 10 over to this next place value. So 10 plus 5 is 15. But I still need to send values. So I take 1 from this. Instead of 15, now that's 14. And I send 10 here. 0 plus 10 is 10. But I still need to send values. So this 10 becomes 9. And then finally, we're all the way to the end. And this 0 plus 10 is 10. Now I can subtract. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 2 is 7. 14 minus 6 is 8. And 6 minus 2 is 4. So, when I get up to the cash register, I was expecting to pay $75, 35% off. I do that calculation myself, and I'm expecting now to only pay $48.75. Tax not included.